Welcome to Don't Be Caged by Your Age, Dr. Marlene Siegel. I'm so happy you're here. How you doing?
Amazing. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh my gosh, everyone, if you're tuning in on the video, how cool is Dr. Siegel's background? Dr. Siegel, we're all about aging out loud and proud on the podcast. Please share where you live and how many years the world has been enjoying the gift of your presence.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm in Tampa, Florida. So I have beautiful sunshine behind me. And I am rounding my 69th year around the sun.
Oh my gosh, that's a milestone year coming up. That's awesome. Yay.
Wow. 70s right around the corner.
It is, and it gets even better in the 70s based on what everyone's telling me on the show about the
I
70s.
think
And
so. I would not, as long as I could keep all the knowledge that I have now, I would not trade my age. It's
yeah,
amazing.
love that. Something fierce. So, listeners, before I jump into all the possum pro aging stories with Dr. Siegel, let me share a little bit of her extraordinary background with you. Dr. Siegel is a pioneering integrative veterinarian dedicated to helping pet parents and veterinarians find solutions when traditional medicine falls short. With expertise in ozone therapy, photodynamic therapy, detoxification, and bioregulatory medicine, she focuses on identifying root causes and providing safe, effective treatments. In addition to running a full time clinical practice, Dr. Siegel is an international speaker, researcher, and educator. And she also has developed online courses, launched a raw pet food and supplement company, and is preparing to open spas, family wellness centers. And that's spelled S apostrophe PAWS. And these are detox centers for pets and their human parents. And as I said earlier, this is going to be a possum conversation. You're going to be hearing me use all of my favorite furry friend lingo today. What inspired you, Dr. Siegel, to pursue a career in veterinary medicine? And what has kept you passionate about it over the years?
Well, it's a lot to unpack with that question, but I came out of the womb only wanting to be around animals. I mean, seriously, I didn't play with dolls, I played with stuffed animals. So I truly knew I was on my passion path from the very beginning. Graduating from veterinary school is definitely a milestone. And I was a paramedic before I was a veterinarian. That's how I paid for my undergraduate. But in the beginning, everything is new and you're learning and it's challenging and it's stressful. But I will tell you that now, 40 years down the road, with all of the integrative medicine that I do, I find it more inspiring, more enjoyable, more passionate, more inspiring now than it was my first few years out of practice.
We should all be so lucky,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they
To
talk about your career, it gets stale and old and you get burned out. And actually, veterinary medicine has the highest rate of burnout of any industry. It also has the highest rate of suicide of any industry,
no.
which is the sad part. And it has to do with compassion fatigue because veterinarians as a whole are very compassionate people. We put our heart and soul into our patients. And human nature is one where when things go south, they tend to want to blame somebody, usually the person closest to you or maybe a caregiver. And so a lot of people will blame their veterinarian for things that go wrong with their pets when they didn't create the problem. So those individuals who don't have a high self-esteem or already under compassion fatigue, it can play bad things in your mind. But for me, I just find that it just gets better and better and better every year. I can imagine not practicing.
There's a lot of trauma involved for the pet owner. So I can only imagine the vet picking up on the sadness of losing, especially a companion that you've had for 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. Now you have to say goodbye to it. It's almost like losing a child.
Oh, it is like losing a child.
Yeah.
But the part that is so sad is that in human nature, we want to blame somebody else
Yeah.
instead of owning that the situation came to be because of our lifestyle choices. And what I would encourage people to do is start becoming educated about what does it mean to be healthy? Like we don't know that definition. When we understand what it means to be healthy, we can make better life choices, including what are we feeding our pets? What are we
Right.
bathing them in? What is the air quality? What's the environmental quality? What's the quality of life around us, and how are we imposing that upon our pets? So all of these are really important things that I'm passionate about educating people, so that down the road they have better outcomes because they're setting up the stage for a better life.
Right. And I want to remind listeners that we're chatting with Dr. Marlene Siegel, and she's an integrative veterinarian. You can learn everything you need by going to Dr. Marlene Siegel. That's SIEGEL.com. And you'll find everything you need there at her website and find all the incredible things she's doing. I'll be mentioning that a lot while we're chatting. This focus on the health is something that came to you at a certain point in your career, because you transitioned from a traditional veterinary practice to pioneering a holistic approach to vet medicine. Talk about what led to this shift and how has it transformed the way you care for animals and clearly has kept you passionate about taking care of animals.
Oh, it actually shifted my whole life perspective, and my life and how I raised my family. So when my daughters and I were showing horses, my youngest was 10, my oldest was 12, and we had an accident in the arena with my youngest daughter and her show horse. The horse reared in the air, and instead of somebody teaching my daughter, if your horse rears, just bail off to safety, she was literally hanging and dangling from the reins and physically pulling this horse over backwards. The number one cause of a rider's death is a horse landing and crushing on their rider. Well, we had a 10-pound, 50-pound, 10-year-old, 50-pound child and a 2,000-pound horse. And this horse was going over backwards as my daughter was pulling her over. So in that experience where I'm watching from the
Oh
sidelines, and
my God, mom, I just can't only imagine like watching the train wreck about to happen.
yeah, and it's like watching life in slow motion. You
Right.
realize something's happening, but you're so paralyzed, you're not even breathing. So when the horse went over and hit the ground, you couldn't see space between my daughter and the horse. But what the horse did before she went over backwards is she squatted on her left hind leg, pushed herself as hard as she could to the right, which wasn't very far considering the circumstances. And my daughter had been slipping off just to the left of the horse. But when she hit the ground, you couldn't see space between the two of them. So I couldn't tell if she was crushed or not. By the time
Oh,
I jumped over the rail and I was running towards my daughter, the horse had caught her breath and got up, and my daughter was still on the ground, not moving. So I truly did not know what I was going to find when I got there. My mind was just numb. I get there and my daughter opens her eyes, said, "Are you okay?" And she kind of shook her head. And I said, "Do you want to walk out or do you want me to carry you?" And then the whole impact of, for her, it was embarrassment. She'd fallen off her horse and she didn't understand what the whole circumstance meant. Like she almost got killed.
yeah.
And that she didn't understand that at that time. And so she wanted me to carry her out. So I carry her out. And I thought that was the end of the story. But back home, we had several more incidents happen where something was happening with the horse. And about the third time it happened, I happened to be standing next to the horse and I saw it looked like a seizure or a spasm go up her whole shoulder and up through her neck. So I had equine veterinarians come out and look at her and they said, "Dr. Siegel, we don't know exactly what's wrong with her, but we'll tell you that she's not safe to ride. She'll never be shown again. And you can put her out to a pasture or you can put her down."
Yeah.
This was a 7-year-old United States national champion in an open competition. And
Yeah.
she was also a US Canadian national champion, which is big. But the
It's
biggest,
very big.
he saved my daughter's life. That was the big part of the story. And that's what motivated me to say, I'm going to find a way to fix this horse. Whatever it is, I'm going to fix it. And so, even though the veterinarians I was working with didn't know even what was wrong with her, that didn't stop me. And so, I started looking for solutions where none existed. And back then, functional medicine was brand new on the human side. And so I'm watching all these seminars and webinars, and I'm calling these doctors on the human side, and they're going, "Well, we do this on people. We don't do it on animals. I don't know what to tell you." And I said, "Just tell me what you do for people, and I will figure out how to extrapolate it to an animal." And that's how I started. And it was one thing after another, after another, after another. And 5 months after being told she would never be safe to ride again, that little duo went on to win the United States Reserve Youth National Championship, which is the most prestigious horse show for youth riders in the entire United States. And the reason I tell this story so often is because Many of us are told either personally or to our loved ones or our pets, I'm sorry, there's nothing more that we can do. Go home and get your affairs in order. And I want to tell you that just because one group may not have answers for you doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that group doesn't know.
Right.
It's up to you to go out looking for other answers. And it's that passion, that motivation that drives us to find solutions where none existed.
Oh my gosh. Talk about being the gift that keeps on giving. I
Yeah.
love that you were like, no way is this horse going out to pasture. And listeners, what Dr. Siegel's daughter was doing in a ring when you are showing a horse, you've got the whole outfit, you've got the hard hat, you've got the whole look, and you have been training really hard with your horse, which is a horse that's been prepared for this level of what's
Yeah.
called eventing and showing. So you're doing the jumping, you're doing the dressage, you're doing all the things and getting judged, but you're also practically one with this horse on the back of the horse. And I'm talking from experience because I've shown horses and been involved in the horse world my whole life as an observer as well. I had a similar situation happen when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I was at a riding lesson and the horse just went rearing up, but I knew to throw myself off. So it fell between my legs and the head was between my legs, but I didn't get crushed. So when you were telling the story, I went back to my own traumatic experience of having that happen.
Yeah.
But
Flashback.
but Dr. Siegel, what I just really love is that you knew that bond that your daughter had with her horse. You knew that horse was capable of taking your daughter to a dream she had to achieve, right? That she was pursuing in her life. And you said, okay, I'm a fierce problem solver. I'm going to figure this out. What
Yeah.
happened? Like, what did people say once they saw and heard what you had done for this horse and the evidence of your daughter winning such a prestigious award in her young life?
I don't know that anybody really had this aha moment per se, but what it did is it changed the trajectory of how I practice medicine and how I live my life. So I had made a commitment that I would never, ever, ever tell a client there's nothing more that can be done. And I have kept that promise now all these years. So it's a daunting responsibility, but it's something that is really important.
It really is. And the thing is that has become your North Star. And how long ago was this? 20 some years?
So
Probably or 30?
28 now. Does she
Yeah.
9? So she was 10, 19 years. Yeah.
Wow. And how did this change your practice? What did it start looking like for you professionally as you became known, not just as a horse whisperer and a furry friend advocate in a way that people hadn't heard before?
Well, what
Did a
it
few
is I started learning techniques and technologies and buying and getting trained in different modalities to help the horse. But then I took those modalities and implemented them into the small animal practice. So chiropractic, acupuncture, learning about herbs and oils. And then as time went on, even getting into ozone therapy, hyperbaric oxygen, halo therapy. It's just one thing after another.
what are those?
So, hyperbaric oxygen therapy is where you are in an oxygen chamber under pressure, and it helps with detoxification. It pushes more oxygen out into the tissue. So, it helps with not only detoxification, but repair and regeneration. And ozone therapy is using ozone gas in a variety of different ways. You can use it as a gas into an orifice, like injecting it rectally or intravaginal, or we can do it intravenously, or we can inject it into tumors or under the skin or at acupuncture points. And ozone helps to stimulate over 200 anti-inflammatory pathways. So it's a pro-oxidant and helps with creating more glutathione, a big fancy word, but more antioxidant production from the body itself. So just so many applications to help the body healing. It's antimicrobial, it's antiviral, it's anti fungicidal. It just
Yeah.
has so many properties and virtually no side effects, no downside.
Wow. And as you're talking about detoxification, I don't think anybody really talks about detoxification with their pets. How did you know about detoxification? The anti-inflammatory we can understand, right? Because that's the heart of all dis-ease. But the detoxification, like where did you begin and how did you even have that conversation with someone?
So what I actually practice is bioregulatory medicine. It's just not a name that we really understand. It's probably not really a thing in the veterinary world, but it is on the human side. So initially, I practiced allopathic medicine, like we graduated vet school, we do all the Western medicine things. And then we started calling it integrative medicine. So it's holistic medicine combined with allopathic medicine. That's called integrative medicine. But what I found a lot of people were doing is they were taking the same model that allopathic medicine uses, which is you name it, you blame it, and then you have a pharmaceutical or a treatment for it. But it's a pill for the ill and a diet for the disease model. It's symptom suppression. And I found that people that were doing integrative medicine in the veterinary side were doing the same thing, except now that they were substituting for a symptom, instead of it being a pill, it was an acupuncture needle, or it was an herb, or it was an essential oil, but they were still doing symptom suppression, but just with a different toolkit. And so I knew there had to be something more than that because very quickly I started doing more cancer and chronic degenerative conditions than anything else. And so in order to really understand why did the body do this to begin with, you have to go into that bioregulatory level. You have to really understand what is the body, how do these biochemical pathways work, and what are we doing that's disrupting them, and how do we fix it? So it's a pretty basic and simple process, but it's also knowing how do you identify deficiencies? How
Right.
do you identify toxicities? How do you identify the mitochondrial dysfunction? The mitochondria are what make the energy in our body, but they also provide the communication between themselves and the microbiome to turn on and off gene expression. So most people aren't aware of that. So in addition to producing energy, they're helping with gene expression. And what are they getting as a signal? All the input that we provide from our sight, sound, hearing, taste, and feelings.
But Dr.
When
Siegel, some people tuning in may know this and have heard this for humans. How did you translate this to our furry friends who can't say, Dr. Siegel, my back, hip, and my stomach, and I get these headaches? They're not talking to you. How do
they
you know and how do you test for them?
Yeah, they do talk to us. It's about being more perceptive and paying attention and observing because they do tell you, but you just
Okay.
have to listen with other senses. And then it was also the testing that was done on the human side. I was looking for companies who could do it on the veterinary side
Wow.
and just
This
getting
is
people to adapt. Stress actually brings on a lot of illnesses, including leaky gut, including cancers, there's so many things. So we are becoming a society where we're becoming more aware of the impact that stress has on us as humans, but it's having a very similar impact on animals. In fact, probably more so because the animal entrains to their owner's energetic
right.
state. So that means if you're in a household where there's a lot of yelling and screaming and anger and blaming and shaming, there's a frequency that you're giving off, a low vibration of energy.
Sure.
And that animal literally entrains to that. That's not even woo woo. That is literally a physics principle.
You're absolutely right about the symptom suppression. We see it in humans instead of getting to the root cause and healing the body and doing the activities to
Yeah.
bring and restore health, whether it's our mental health or our physical health, so that we can have the kind of preventive medicine. We don't get that. And I'm hearing that this is what you're doing for the animals, which never heard of this before. So I'm so happy we're having this conversation. And I want to remind folks you can find out everything that this remarkable woman and vet is doing by visiting Dr. Marlene, Marlene Siegel, Siegel.com. And we're going to talk more about the other products and services that she's bringing because I'm fascinated about your your paw essentials. How did you go from being this incredible vet? And I would think there's a line outside your door a mile long. By the way, are you training others to have this integrative and functional medicine toward our furry friends?
Yes, I am. I train veterinarians, but I also train for baby parents. So I train the pet parent as
Mm.
well. And I think it's important because knowledge is power,
Yeah.
and you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. Diet
Yeah.
deficiencies, toxicities, inflammation are equally part of that stress. It's not just physiological stress and emotional stress, it's also biological stress.
And so we will go on to evolovestore.com, everyone.
So
He's
let me tell you the history of the name. I am uber spiritual, and I get this download information, love backwards and forward. So
oh,
whichever
I
way
see
you look
that right
at it,
there. Yeah.
yeah, it's love backwards and forward. So either way you look at it, it all comes back to love.
Oh, Dr. Siegel, that's wonderful. And so along the way, you probably just got tired of people who were feeding their cats crap. And so you said, "Oh, I'm going to pull together some products." This is not easy. I've had a product company, okay, for 5 years at a food manufacturing business. So I know how hard that can be. Did you outsource the whole process? And how did you pick everything that was going to be best for our sweet kitties and puppies, etc.?
Wow, I don't get asked that question a lot, but it was an arduous process. So first I started with the diet, the
Yeah.
macronutrients, and I went to several large companies that were doing raw at the time. And at this time, raw was not a big deal. There was a few small companies, and I
Yeah.
went to the largest and I said, I need you to make a product line that has no synthetic ingredients and it's grass fed, grass finished, organic, free range chicken, that it really is a clean diet.
Right.
And there was a new CEO of this company. And the guy said to me, Dr. Siegel, we really appreciate the fact that you move more product for us than any individual in Florida, but we're heading in a different direction. And I went, well, my direction's healthier animals. What's yours? And he never answered me, but his company launched a raw coated kibble 3 months later. So I went, oh, now I see where he was headed. And when he refused to do anything with me, I thought, darn it. I literally put my fist down on the table and I went, darn it, I'll just make my own.
Right.
I looked around, nobody who said that. And I literally talked to God and I said, hey, if this is my direction, then I need some help. I
Yep.
need
Point me in the right direction to the right
exactly. You
people
don't have
and
to be a
everything.
prophet, just point me in the right direction. And shortly after that, I was literally 2 weeks later, I was introduced to the largest producer of grass-fed, grass-finished meats in the US, who ships to your door. And then a couple weeks after that, I ended up consulting with and meeting a gentleman. He called about something else, about a dosage for a particular product, but we got to talking, and he'd been doing a 20-year clinical studies on his own, adopting animals from the pound that had chronic degenerative diseases, usually cancers, and then putting them on his blends of raw diets and watching which formulation did the best and which products was he adding as supplements. And so that's where the macronutrients came from. And then with my product line, it's very interesting because the packaging laws for pet food are not geared towards helping pets be healthier. So the AFCO is the American Association of Feed Producers. It's all big box companies. And they put together this criteria, which is not technically legal, but it's what the government uses to create labels and
Okay.
requirements. So they say if you're going to call a product complete and balanced, you have to add in the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, which is a good thing because our food is nutrient depleted for all of us. So it is important that we add these nutrients back in. But they didn't specify that they have to be bioavailable. So if you're taking a synthetic that isn't helping the body, then that's not really accomplishing what you came. It's
It's going to
making
get flushed right out. It's not, nothing's
the
going to
body's
stick.
not going to utilize it.
Mm.
So I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. How can I get around that labeling law? And the answer was instantaneous. Don't label complete and balanced and separate your macronutrients from your micronutrients. So now what I do is I produce the meat, fat, bone, and organ meat
Yeah.
that the animals need. That's their macronutrients. And then separately, I develop my vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and amino acids that are the essential nutrients. Essential nutrients are those nutrients the body cannot manufacture on its own. You have to eat them in your diet. That's true for us, it's true for our pets. So that's why supplementation in today's age is so important. And I live in a food forest. I literally, my house is surrounded by food, trees, plants, bushes, raised beds. I literally live in a food forest. I still take my essential supplements because I can't tell what my broccoli has in the way of
Right.
nutrients. Can't test it.
Can't.
So rather than worry about being deficient in something, I pop a vitamin, the same product I give my pets, and I take my fatty acids, and then I eat healthy food.
There
And
we
that
go.
solve the problem. Yeah. And when you think about it, if you dose the micronutrients based on body weight and biological need. So an animal that has a lot of deficiencies, is under a lot of stress, is going to need more support than a puppy that's young and healthy and they're doing well. So it just worked out so much better. I think, the universe always has a better plan than I have. And I thought that formula
Absolutely.
beautiful. And I think it's the only model out there where it exists.
This makes me very happy. Listeners, if you don't know this about my background, I'm a 4 times founder. I was a global startup founder mentor for 8 years. So of course I had to pull on the thread about how did Dr. Siegel bring this to market? Because if you're finding new ways to thrive after 65, you may be someone who turned to gardening and then noticed all the bees and got yourself a beehive. And then now what are you going to do with all that honey? You got to put it, package it, and sell it. These are things you can do. There's so many wonderful things, but you can figure it out. And there are people out there that, especially when it comes to manufacturing, you don't have to do it on your own. They're called co-packers or
Mhm.
co-manufacturers, and you can find the folks who you're aligned with. And as Dr. Siegel said, ship to your door. That means that co-packer understands the process of not only manufacturing, but shipping. They know how to ship by the pallet and all those things. So a little sidebar on marketing and producing and manufacturing products, but also it's an opportunity for me to show what a smarty pants our Dr. Siegel is. And now,
Well, the nutraceutical industry is the Wild West. And when
yes,
people come in to my office, they're carrying buckets, literally bags and buckets of all these supplements because they heard curcumin helps with this and frankincense helps with that. And they're trying to do the right thing, but they don't know what they're targeting, right? So
right,
what I try to help people do is there's a lot of wonderful things in the market, and many of them are fabulous, but we have to start with the core essentials. And
right,
once we have the core essentials, then the next thing we have to do is understand what our deficiencies and toxicities are. You have to test, you can't guess. And then you start building this health plan for these pets because they're at our mercy. They can't go out and hunt and take care
yep,
of their biological needs. They're totally dependent on what we provide them,
that's
even
right.
down to the water that we provide. Tap water. I live in Florida. We have one of the worst waters in the country. There are a few worse than ours, but tap water in general has over 85,000 toxins in it.
I know you got to get whole
Yeah.
house filters, everybody, please.
Yeah, so it's really important, and
Yeah.
people unknowingly they go, "Oh, well, the filter in the fridge is there." No, chlorine and iron is all it takes out. It really doesn't
It,
filter all the toxins
you've
out.
got to get all the things, and folks, you got to get rid of the estrogen because between birth control and other things, there's a lot of estrogen, believe it or not, in our water as well. And that's
Absolutely.
not helping anybody.
Yeah.
This is so fascinating. And of course, I have to ask you about the spa. What prompted this idea? And again, it's just shattering age related expectations and beliefs and the limitations. You're thinking about opening up a wellness center for not just the furry friends, but their pet owners, their parents.
Yeah. Well, the inspiration, first of all, came from bioregulatory medicine because when you understand the body's biology, imagine your house and you never cleaned your toilets. They flush, but you never clean them. You never cleaned your sinks. You never cleaned the floor. Over time, it's going to get dirty. And then things aren't going to operate as well as they should. That's what's happening in our body. We have 6 organs of elimination: kidney, colon, lungs, liver, skin, and lymphatics slash fascia.
Yeah.
Those are our organs of elimination. But we live in a time period where we have never been inundated with so much toxicity as we are today. And our lifestyles have been really dummied down to where we don't have the level of exercise and high intensity movement, these other factors that help lymphatic drainage and help our organs of detoxification. And
Well,
so,
and
go ahead.
yeah, Dr. Siegel, we have the size of a credit card worth of plastic in our bodies.
Yeah, yeah, everything. It's there's so much. And so how do we take care of that when the organs of elimination have become so overwhelmed that they can't function right? And so in bioregulatory medicine, that's the whole picture is you've got to be able to supplement what the body needs. It has to be able to process stuff, and those pathways need to be working, including elimination. And gosh, I mean, just on the people side, we know how many people don't have regular bowel movements,
Right.
right? That's one of your major organs of elimination.
So will you these will be what we call brick and mortar locations. So
Yeah,
that's a big undertaking, Dr. Siegel, to set something like that up.
it is. But I also have the ability to, because every piece of equipment we use can be purchased by a pet owner. So for some, they want to be able to invest and have their own like little mini spas at home, and that's fantastic. Then the whole family can use it. And for others, it'll be a place where they can go. But what I really want people to understand is that we've been sold a world of fast, cheap, and convenient. You just walk through the grocery store
Yes, we
and
have.
you can see that we've been dummied down. We've lost critical thinking skills. We've lost the ability to connect with Mother Earth, let alone our own bodies,
Right.
right? So this is not a here, do this. What I'm teaching is actually a mindset and a lifestyle. It's a way for people to be able to use discernment and to make educated decisions. We're all spending our money somewhere. Are
Right.
you spending it on something that is supporting you and your family, your fur family as well? Or are you doing things that are truly harmful to yourself and ultimately Mother Earth? Because if we kill our planet, we're not going to have anything to live on anyway.
Yeah.
So this is the holistic approach. It's about mind, body, spirit. It's about how are we showing up in the world? How are we taking care of the world? A world being our body, our animals' bodies, our children, our family, our friends. How are we inspiring people? What are we doing that's making a difference? And
Right.
that's really the message that I want to present is that we all need to slow down, take a nice deep breath, let it out, and take a perspective. What am I actually showing up in this world like? And
Right.
is it making me happy? Is it helping anybody? And if the answer is not sure or no, then it's time to reassess and to think and do differently. So the whole program with the Empowered Pet Parent Program, which is it's a 3-hour program. I teach pet parents how to live a more holistic lifestyle. Almost everything that's applicable to their animals is applicable to themselves. So for many people, the first way they start taking better care of themselves is because they've done it for their pet. Like they'll do things for their pets before they'll do it for themselves. So that's a beautiful thing. It gets people
Oh,
becoming,
it's a pathway. It is a clear pathway because all of a sudden they're doing it for their pets. So their mindset is shifting. The neuroplasticity in their brain is having an interruption because you're going to care for,
yeah,
the love you have for your pet. You do anything just like you would for your child. But now, what a
yeah,
wonderful indirect way to reach the
yeah.
human.
Yeah. And then we have a lot of wonderful humans who are very awakened and conscious and doing great things, but they haven't learned how to apply it to their pets. And so I come back into the picture. Like I just asked you, you're obviously very, very knowledgeable on health, and yet you're still using a kibble for your animals. And not because you're mean or you have an intention to harm your pets, because no one's really taught you anything different.
Right.
So I can't tell you how many times I've done a podcast and the host of the podcast ends up taking the course and then really embracing it, really understanding it, really able to help their audience start to make that shift because we model what others do. So I'm very passionate. I walk my talk.
I love that. And again, too, sometimes it's the convenience. It's right there on the shelf and you're grabbing whatever at the grocery store. So it's there, or if you're at Costco. But it's also sometimes it's budget, just like buying organic food for ourselves. Sometimes it just gets overwhelming financially if you're on a tight budget. So I know
I'm, I,
that the
I want to speak to that
oh,
because
good too.
I used
Please,
to
Dr.
not go up
Siegel.
and say, oh, it's too expensive. How can I feed raw? And yet I will have them literally go through their medical bills for that pet and show me that they have spent thousands of dollars
Yes, yes,
because we're conditioned to pay for bro care. We're not
right,
conditioned to pay for health care.
right.
So I said, if you took that, I just had a lady in yesterday and she had just spent, the dog had to have blood work, had to have a dental cleaning, had a tumor on its side that was removed. It was cancerous. And the vet said, oh, we got it all. And they never even asked about what this lady was feeding her dog. So the conditions, the terrain that came from her lifestyle was what was causing all these things to break down. They never addressed that. She spent over almost $5,000
Oh, sure.
in a year on all this broke care medicine and said, but I don't know if I can afford a healthier diet. Well, you just spent $5,000. Yes, you can afford it because now you're not going to be spending it on broke care.
That's right.
When I turned 65, I was forced to have health insurance. I was forced to go on Medicare. Other than that, my last insurance bill was when I gave birth to my 28-year-old. And I've
Wow.
had no insurance since then. Part of my health comes to, of course, my knowledge and the things that I do because I walk my talk and I live my lifestyle. But it's also that I am aware of what harms my body and I can choose to avoid it. Sometimes we make mistakes and
Yeah.
things happen, but I'm in a position where I can actually take care of myself, thank God. But if I needed a hospital, I would absolutely go.
Oh, of course you would. Just like if you have a toothache and something's wrong with your mouth, you're going to get that fixed. I love what you're doing. And as someone who has used holistic medicine my whole life, and I move my body and do all the things, we need to know that part of aging successfully is taking care of our bodies successfully. But literally, everyone, you have to do the hard work and you have to make the better decisions for your body. You have to move your body, you have to care for it because the medicines are they might provide relief, but they're very rarely are they treating the root cause of what's happening.
Mhm.
And hey, sometimes that arthritis is just going to take you down and you have to use some medicine for that. That's fine. But if you're also taking good care of your liver and your stomach with the holistic approaches, I love how you are bringing all of this in to the parents of pets' lives. And if you're enjoying this conversation with Dr. Siegel as much as I am, please take a moment to support Don't Be Caged by Your Age by buying me a coffee. It's a simple way to say thanks and help fuel more inspiring episodes that help shatter ageism and help you thrive after 65. Just head over to buymeacoffee.com/Ande, Ande, Lyons, Lyons. Every cup makes a difference. Thank you so much. And of course, no, I'm not going to have some Java delivered to me. It's a way that you can drop $5 and say, here you go, Ande. I'm supporting you and the podcast so you can reach more folks. And I really appreciate that. Talk a little bit about what this stage of life is like for you so that those who are 40 in their 40s and 50s can start cheering wildly for this wonderful time and stage of life.
I think it's really important that people figure out what their passion is and then they follow their passion and everybody can do it. I was just talking to a young girl. She's in 8th grade. So what is that? 12 or 13, 14, something like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And I said, what are you planning on doing like career wise? And she goes, I just don't know. I said, okay, here's how you figure it out. You take and write down all the things that you are good at. Just list them all, no judgment, just put them all down there. And then in the next column, you write down all the things that you're passionate about. And then in the third column, you circle what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and then what does the world need that you could provide? And that's how we start figuring out what is it that we can do. And it doesn't matter if there's millions of people already doing it, you're important. And what your contribution is just as important as anybody else's on any level of scale. So it doesn't matter. So that's number one. And then number two is always be willing to learn, because the day that we quit evolving, the way that when we quit learning and we quit trying to improve and we quit trying to add to the world that we know. We want to leave the place better than how we found it. My mom always taught me, when you stay at somebody's house, make sure you leave it cleaner than how you found it. Well, I think we have that responsibility with Mother Earth as well. So how can we take our gifts, our talents, our passions, and how can we make the place that we're enjoying a better place for ourselves, our family members, and our pets, and Mother Earth itself?
Dr. Siegel, outstanding advice on so many levels, because a lot of times we're reimagining how we want to be at this age and stage. We're dissolving some of the internalized ageist beliefs that people have told us about what you can or can't do at this stage and age. But being curious is so important. But how you brought the triangle together, the three-legged stool of what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and the passion is like, yeah, what lights you up? That's so important. But
Yeah.
also what the world needs. That's how you fuel your pocketbook, because
Yeah.
the world will pay for what you're going to be solving, the problem they want you to solve. And remember, sure, it's been done before, but not by you and not for us. So just walk down the bread aisle and you can see there's plenty of room for what people want and what they want to pay for. Is this just
Yeah.
an example? But also, what I really loved is how in this stage of life you can pull on a few threads, and what you were passionate about and what you're good at, you might pull on a few things and you're like, I thought I was passionate about that, but maybe I'm not. It's okay. Experiment.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Siegel, as you know, we need a reason to get out of bed in the morning. We need purpose. Until our last breath, we need purpose. We
Yeah.
want to know that we're contributing to the world, and we do not want to be warehoused. We are no longer new and fresh, and it doesn't matter, because we are bringing new and fresh with our state of mind, with our nature, with our glow. It doesn't matter that you've had all these decades of lived experience. You can still be enthusiastic about life. And that's really what this podcast is all about. And Dr. Siegel, you have made the best examples. You brought possum and perfect examples to us throughout this conversation on the larger world, of course, of taking care of our furry friends, our animals, the creatures, beautiful creatures in our lives, but also how that can help us heal ourselves on so many different levels. How can folks continue to work with you, connect with you, do all the things with you, and learn more about your work? Because I'm sure notes have been taken during this conversation.
I hope so. Well, I do have a free PDF that people can download. It's the 6 steps to holistic healing. 6 steps to holistic healing. And you'll probably put it in the show notes, but it's holistichealingvet.com. And the 6 steps that I go into pretty good depth is: number one, stop doing the things that are causing the problems: food, water, environment, your thoughts, etc. Number two, how to supply all the essential nutrients. Number three, how to heal the leaky gut. Number four, detoxification of all 6 organs of elimination. Number five is supporting the mitochondria so we have more energy and more communication. And number six is clearing trapped emotions. So that PDF is a good starting point and it's free. But then I really want to encourage people to take that next not expensive step and to take the 3-hour training course. Once you've accomplished that 3-hour training course, you can get consultations with me. You can start implementing things, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. When I talk about implementation, I take a piece of paper, I fold it in half. There's a column A and a column B. Column A, all the things you're learning about that you should be doing, but you're not doing them yet. So, Ande, you're going to be working on diet for your animals. Column B are all the things you shouldn't be doing, but you still are, because we haven't taught you how to do something different. And if people would just do that little simple exercise and keep it going, it doesn't have, you're not going to ever be done with the list, because every time you learn something new, you add it to either oh, I need to do that, or I need to stop doing that. And that starts to make massive changes in your life. So it overcomes analysis paralysis, where you
Right.
want so much, but you just go, I don't know where to start. So I'm not going to start anywhere. We want to, we want people to make moves. We want to see them move forward. And so that would be the two things, the free PDF or the course.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make one comment about what you said on money and expenses, because we touched upon how it really is more expensive to pay for broke care and it's more anguish and hardship. But money is an energy. And so for me, the more money that flows, the more energy and goodness that can flow along with it. So when people feel like there's a limitation called money, it simply means they haven't figured out how to be creative enough to figure out how to get that energy flow going again.
And you're absolutely right, Dr. Siegel. Ha- Money is energy, everyone. And there's ways of making it flow and grow, but it's an investment. I'm excited about everything that you're doing. And I'm so thrilled you joined me and also representing someone who is thriving at this wonderful stage of life. We're here to reframe what aging looks and feels like. You are pursuing new dreams, and listeners, I want to encourage you to grab some of Dr. Siegel's delicious energy. Have Dr. Siegel be your shining light if you're looking for ways to glow in a different way, to pursue new opportunities. We're here to cheer you on. You just can't let those internalized ageist beliefs prevent you from pursuing new dreams, pulling on threads, and finding opportunities that you that touch on your passion and your joy and what you're good at and what you like to do, along with serving the world while you're at it. Dr. Siegel, thank you so much for your time and your beautiful energy. It was so wonderful to learn about you and spend time with you today.
Thank you, Andy. It was my honor.
Listeners, until next time, I'm waving from Boston and I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Mwah, everyone.
Bye.
Listeners, I'm so grateful you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from this delicious conversation. Be sure to hop on over to Don't Be Caged by Your Age on LinkedIn or Instagram to share your thoughts about ageism and unretirement. Because in this space, your age doesn't define you, it refines you. If you are inspired by a story you hear, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. To receive an alert whenever a new show is posted, please join the Don't Be Caged by Your Age newsletter. Every month, you'll receive links to the podcast and helpful resources for creating possibilities for your unretirement days. Thank you for tuning in. I am so excited to hear how you found ways to thrive after 65. Waving from Boston, cheers.